are obsessed with intelligent agents. So, I mean, a lot of researchers here, when they think of intelligence, the first thing they are going to tell you is the utility maximization agent. They think that's special, but this is really, I think just a behaviorist presupposition, and we know behaviorism is just wrong. So that's just, poor philosophy. But suppose that we want to build intelligent agents. In 2013, I defined two different kinds of intelligent agents.
Sorry, can we get to the question?
Yes, of course, because he just interviewed, I had to explain. Full autonomous agents and semi-autonomous agents. In my opinion, if we make an agent fully autonomous, we must grant it freedom. What do you think about that? Because, I mean, the IC model is a full autonomous agent.
Yeah, but we don't want full autonomy. I mean, we want control.
Why?
Speak for yourself.
You're right there.
That's both.
But it's really easy to control, make a semi-autonomous agent. You just delimit its physical, you give it physical bounds, and it will never move out of there.
It's been tried before.
Nothing is purely autonomous, and what we get at is that if there is a bunch of autonomous agents, then we start to interact with each other and negotiate with each other, and maybe modify the behavior of each other, but then we get something which is not necessarily a unidirectional power relation. So I'm all for giving full freedom, but I think also in terms of social systems, of a population of intelligent agents that are interacting, and then there are certain degrees of freedom and certain restrictions that emerge just in the course of interactions. And I'm fine with this. This is how human society is existing.
So, do you
Not
think
everything
that
is
the
good, but not
real
everything
purpose
is
of
evil.
intelligent agent research is to build an artificial person?
Not necessarily, because I think intelligence is much more than building persons.
Or artificial slave?
Neither, an artificial supermind.
So control is an illusion.
Of course.
But what is the desired power relationship between humans and machines? That's the question.
Alice.
Absolutely.
And a similar if a child or an AI develops as a child does, has cognitive development, it will eventually get a theory of mind. And as it acquires that theory, they'll understand how other people think. And as they develop their emotions, then they'll probably learn to respect or envy somebody else that has different values. And there'll be an internal cognitive dissonance with them if their values don't coincide with what somebody else has. So just your comments on that.
So yeah, there will be conflicts also among its own possible course of actions. Maybe there is no win-win situation when it's given certain tasks to do. It will need to weigh its options in hopefully in a good way. I don't think you can escape sometimes that there's just that there will be lose-lose situations sometimes. But we'll just need to decide which of these is the least lose.
A question for Weaver. So the sort of coevolution dynamics that you're describing of interaction and cooperation and I guess negotiation and trade and whatnot. Low battery. So this dynamic that you're describing tends to be with agents of approximately or comparable sort of power, or at least maybe some limited number of orders of magnitude of difference in power and utility. But what if a very small number of agents or one agent is just many orders of magnitude much more powerful than the others, I mean, it wouldn't really participate in that sort of dynamic. It would just dominate and potentially easily wipe the others out. No?
I think yes, but this is not a very probable scenario. If we look around, there were in the course of human history, there were forces that arose that just took advantage of increased power or capability, maybe it is economical or military, to take over and operate their power in order to achieve their goals or interests, etc. But these situations are never they can be long, but they are never eternal.
Well, Weaver, as a member of the Global Brain Institute, you could think about the possibility that future AIs could fuse together to make a unified mind in a way that wasn't possible in human history. Thus, you have a sort of hegemonic mindplex, or AI Borg mind that has more power than all the others. I mean, if we're talking about future possibilities, it's not clear that history of humans trapped in individual bodies is the optimal guide.
Yes, this is why I tend to emphasize diversity. So there always will be a multiplicity of views, of directions, of purposes, of interests, and kinds of intelligence. And this situation will safeguard against a kind of superpower taking over everything and subduing all the rest or killing all the rest. It's,
Or assimilating all the rest.
assimilating, yeah. And actually, in the science fiction genre, there was this idea of the Borg, which was actually extreme diversity, but made into one superpower. And this I always was quite suspicious about it. How it happens that that so diverse elements come together so nicely to become really homogeneous and unidirectional and so on.
Where's the microphone?
Sounds battery dead.
Oh, it's dead? Okay.
So regarding the self-organization, understanding, integration, so everything together, my question is, so the idea of programming values into a baby robot and allowing it to grow versus understanding, the ability to understand values and the relationship of that to a self-preserving agent versus somebody who is goal-oriented seems like getting us into a direction where that self-preserving thing is more important than the ability to, than the requirement for putting in values from birth, pretty much. And the reason why I feel that's the case is because if you do have values put in a certain set of robots, whatever, and you could equally create intelligence which do not have those values put in, and that self-preserving thing, I guess, is more fundamental, because unless there is that self-preserving thing, how the self-organization or set of the multiple intelligent artificial systems to collaborate to come up with something which would help develop its own societal values based on the scenario. I don't know how that would happen.
Well, I think the question has to do with the fact that any AI will have several goals at the same time and many constraints as well. And if it has, it wants to achieve some of these goals, but it simulates like what happens if I have like 100 kinds of plans to achieve these goals. I need to look ahead what will happen if I do them, and they all, some of them violate some constraints, some of them violate, none of them violate, if one of them violates no constraints, okay, that's clear, it should do that. But if all of them violate some constraints and with several different kinds of probabilities, it needs to weigh them, it needs to weigh its options. That means it's basically in a lose-lose situation anyway. So then it just needs to do its best effort.
Yeah, but do people look at how to understand values of somebody, some other agent, some other human being, more than representing? I mean, I think it's easier to build in.
Yeah. Well, the building and testing for levels of understanding, this is really something that has not been properly done yet, and this is exactly what Kristen and I were arguing for. This is something we need to get clearer. So yes, this is preliminary work, and it's super important that we get this right, that we understand what understanding is, and that we understand how to teach understanding to our AIs and how to test for it. This is very important.
Hi, two questions, one to Kristen and one to you. First, about understanding. You mentioned the importance of updating your models, right? And that as opposed to having a static model. But I would say a lot of about super intelligence or about like really, really intelligent AGI is almost this kind of notion of omniscience. So do you agree with either that as the AGI gets more intelligent, that at one point it can stop updating its models and it's just omniscient, or do you not agree with the notion of omniscience? And then the second question would be regarding the encoding values. I think, as was mentioned by the girl who left already, she pointed out the importance of dynamic values, right? Because society, hopefully progresses. But on the other hand, there's also, even further than that, also the notion of not only dynamic values, but also of kind of checking where the values came from, because you now have so many theories or like so many psychological studies that suggest that a lot of them are based on prejudices or preconceptions or biases that we would not like the AGI to have, supposedly.
Okay, so if I go first, I'm not so interested in highly improbable scenarios, and I think at the present state of knowledge, any discussion about superhuman intelligence is philosophy. I think we'll have that doesn't mean we can't talk about it and think about it, but what we say is probably going to be wrong, mostly wrong. So, but the question is with respect to sort of a hypothetical superhuman AI that has been around for a long time, has acquired a lot of good, correct causal models of the universe. I'd be hard pressed to say that it could stop, or it depends on its purpose for being, I guess. But let's say it's just hungry for knowledge, then you would have to have an enormous amount of computing power to have concluded how the universe works. I mean, basically what you have then done is duplicate the universe at all levels of detail. I don't see how that's really possible. I mean, it sounds like doubly infinitely hard.
Okay, so regarding the open-mindedness of values, I acknowledge there's a possible concern there that it might not be open-minded. I think this is due to that I'm more putting more priority in the safety aspect there. I just want to make sure that, the more open-minded it is, the less you can say about what it will really do in the very long-term future. On the other hand, if it really turns out to be not open-minded with regard to its values, I think you did something when you specify them too much. So if it really is against gay marriage for the next million years, then probably what you really said in the beginning, when it was still sensitive to that, like gay marriage is bad. But what you should not say this explicitly. You should give some more, probably unspecified values of, humans should have freedom of choice. They should do what they feel best about. And in the beginning, maybe this will then turn the agent sort of against gay marriage, given the little things that it has seen so far. But as it learns more about the world, it will find out, no, this is actually...
So how's your progress on a complete formalization of positive human value?
What is it that list?
There's no such
Yeah, no, it doesn't exist, unfortunately.
There's only one, self-preserving, other than that.
Oh, that philosophy can kill you.
Yeah,
Creationist philosophers always have these ideas that, humans
So
are-
I think we should wrap up since it's time for lunch break. We could take 0 more questions. Thanks,